Story 1. I've been working at Harvest Moon, one of downtown's most popular farm-to-table restaurants, for 3 years now. It's the kind of place where people make reservations weeks in advance and everything is made from scratch. Our head chef takes pride in accommodating dietary restrictions, and we get training on handling allergies because cross-contamination can literally kill someone. Last Saturday night was particularly busy. We had a full house, and I was working the dinner shift when this woman walked in. She looked like she belonged here: expensive handbag, designer clothes, the whole package. But there was something about her attitude from the moment she sat down that put me on edge. I approached her table with menus and water. Good evening. Welcome to Harvest Moon. Can I start you with something to drink? Karen, I need to speak with your manager immediately. I have a severe food allergy, and I need to make sure your kitchen can handle it properly. This wasn't unusual. We get customers with serious allergies all the time, and we have protocols for handling them safely. Of course. What's your allergy? I can get our manager and also inform the kitchen staff right away. Karen, I'm severely allergic to all tree nuts. Even trace amounts could send me into anaphylactic shock. I carry an emergency injector everywhere. She pulled out an EpiPen from her purse and set it on the table dramatically. Karen, I've been to restaurants where they claimed they could accommodate me, and I ended up in the emergency room. I hope your establishment is more competent. I got our manager, Sarah, who came over immediately. Sarah has been in the restaurant business for 15 years and knows how to handle these situations. Sarah, I understand you have a severe nut allergy. We absolutely can accommodate that. Let me walk you through our process. Karen, finally, someone who takes this seriously. I need to know exactly what you're going to do to prevent cross-contamination. Sarah explained our allergy protocol. We have separate prep areas, dedicated utensils, and the chef personally oversees any allergy orders. It's a thorough process that usually takes about 45 minutes for complex dishes. Karen, I want the pan-seared salmon, but I need it prepared in a completely clean pan with fresh oil. The vegetables need to be steamed separately, and the sauce needs to be made from scratch without any possibility of nut contamination. Sarah, absolutely. Our chef will prepare everything fresh. It will take about 45 minutes because we need to clean the station and use dedicated equipment. Karen, that's fine. My life is worth the wait. Sarah went to the kitchen, and I could see her talking seriously with the head chef. He nodded and immediately started sectioning off a clean prep area. This is a big deal in a busy kitchen. It means stopping everything else to focus on one order. While Karen waited, she made a point of mentioning her allergy to every staff member who came near her table. She asked me 3 separate times if I was sure the kitchen understood how serious this was. Karen, I've sued restaurants before when they didn't take proper precautions. I hope that won't be necessary here. Finally, her meal arrived. The chef had personally prepared everything in the isolated area and even came out to confirm the preparation with her. Chef, ma'am, I prepared your salmon in a completely clean environment. Fresh pan, new oil, separate steamer for vegetables, and I made the sauce from scratch. Everything has been kept completely separate from any nuts. Karen, thank you. It's refreshing to find professionals who understand the severity of food allergies. She ate every bite, complimenting the food multiple times. She seemed perfectly fine, no signs of any allergic reaction whatsoever. After she finished her entree, I came to clear her plate. How was everything? Karen, absolutely delicious. Now I'd like to see your dessert menu. I brought over the dessert menu, and she studied it carefully. Karen, I'll have the walnut brownie sundae. I stared at her, thinking I'd misheard. I'm sorry, did you say the walnut brownie sundae? Karen, yes, that one, with extra walnuts on top. Ma'am, you told us you have a severe allergy to tree nuts. Walnuts are tree nuts. Karen, I feel like having dessert, and that looks good. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This woman had just put our entire kitchen through an elaborate 45-minute process, claiming her life was in danger, and now she wanted to order something loaded with the exact thing she said would kill her. I need to get my manager. I found Sarah and explained what had just happened. Her face went through about 5 different expressions before settling on barely controlled anger. Sarah walked over to Karen's table with me following behind. "Sarah, excuse me, but my server tells me you'd like to order our walnut brownie sundae. Didn't you tell us earlier that you have a severe tree nut allergy?" "Karen, look, I changed my mind about dessert. Is that a crime?" "Sarah, ma'am, you claim to have a life-threatening allergy. You made us shut down part of our kitchen, use special equipment, and have our head chef personally prepare your meal. Now you want to order walnuts? Karen, I don't see what the big deal is. I decided I want dessert." Other diners were starting to stare. Karen seemed completely unbothered by the attention. "Sarah, the big deal is that you lied about having a medical condition to get special treatment. You wasted our staff's time and resources." "Karen, I want to speak to the owner. This is discrimination against people with allergies." "Sarah, you clearly don't have an allergy if you're trying to order walnuts. I'm not serving you any more food, and I'm not comping your meal." "Karen, this is outrageous. I demand you take my meal off the bill. Your server was rude, and your accusations are completely unfounded. Sarah, you're going to pay for your meal, and then I need you to leave. You're not welcome back here." "Karen, you can't kick me out. I'll leave reviews everywhere. I'll report you to the health department." "Sarah, you're welcome to do that. But right now, you need to pay your bill and leave." Karen threw her credit card on the table and started gathering her things, muttering about lawsuits and bad service. As she signed the receipt, she looked at me. "Karen, I wasn't going to tip you anyway. Your service was terrible." "Have a good evening, ma'am." After she left, Sarah gathered the staff together. "Sarah, if that woman ever tries to make a reservation or comes in again, we're not serving her. What she did tonight was not only dishonest but dangerous. Fake allergy claims make it harder for people with real allergies to be taken seriously." The kitchen staff was particularly angry. They'd stopped everything during the dinner rush to accommodate what they thought was a medical emergency, only to find out it was just someone trying to get free food and special attention. Word spread quickly among the downtown restaurant community. Apparently, Karen had tried similar stunts at other places. She'd claim various allergies or dietary restrictions, demand special preparation, and then try to get her meal comped by complaining about service or finding imaginary problems. 2 weeks later, I saw her at a coffee shop across the street, loudly complaining to the barista about something. Some people never learn. Story 2. I've been planning my daughter's 8th birthday party for weeks. This was going to be special, her first real birthday party with friends from school. We'd moved to this neighborhood 6 months ago, and she was finally starting to make friends. I wanted everything to be perfect. The bounce house was the centerpiece of the whole celebration. I'd saved up for 2 months to afford the rental. It wasn't cheap, but seeing her face light up when I told her about it made every extra shift at the diner worth it. The rental company said they'd deliver it Saturday morning at 9, giving us plenty of time to set up before the party started at noon. Saturday morning came, and I was up early getting everything ready. I'd spent Friday evening blowing up balloons, setting up tables in our backyard, and preparing goodie bags. My daughter was practically bouncing off the walls with excitement. The bounce house arrived right on time. 2 guys from the rental company pulled up in a truck with this massive inflatable castle on the back. It was even better than the pictures online, bright red and blue with towers and a slide. "Delivery guy, where do you want this set up?" "Right there in the center of the backyard would be perfect." It took them about 30 minutes to get everything positioned and inflated. The thing was huge, taking up most of our small backyard. My daughter immediately wanted to test it out, but I made her wait until her friends arrived. Remember, no shoes inside, and only 4 kids at a time. Daughter, I know. Can I at least look inside? I let her peek in while I went inside to finish frosting the cake. That's when I made my first mistake. I left the backyard unattended. About an hour later, I came back outside to start setting up the food table. The bounce house was gone. I stood there for a solid minute, thinking I was losing my mind. I walked around to the side of the house, thinking maybe I'd remembered the wrong spot. Nothing. It was like the thing had vanished into thin air. Then I heard kids laughing and screaming from next door. Really loud, excited screaming. The kind that comes from kids having the time of their lives. I walked to the fence line and peered over into my neighbor's yard. There was my bounce house, my $800 rental bounce house, sitting in their backyard with about 6 kids jumping around inside it. The neighbor I'm talking about had moved in about a month after us. She had a son around my daughter's age, but we'd barely spoken beyond basic pleasantries. She always seemed to be watching what everyone else in the neighborhood was doing, like she was keeping track of things. I marched over and rang their doorbell. Karen. Oh, hi there. What's up? Me. That's my bounce house in your backyard. Karen. What do you mean? Me. I rented that bounce house for my daughter's birthday party. It was set up in my yard this morning. Karen. Are you sure? I rented one too for my son's party today. She said it so casually, like there was no way I could prove otherwise. But I had the receipt in my pocket and photos on my phone from when it was delivered. Me? No, you didn't. That's mine. I need you to move it back. Karen, I don't think so. My son's friends are already here, and they're having such a good time. Your daughter can come over and play if she wants. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Me, my daughter's party starts in an hour. I paid for that bounce house. Karen, well, maybe you should have secured it better. I found it in my yard this morning. That's when I realized what had happened. She'd moved it herself while I was inside. Me, you moved it from my yard to yours. Karen, I have no idea what you're talking about. Why would I do that? The kids in the bounce house were getting louder, and I could see other parents starting to arrive for whatever party she was throwing. Me, because you wanted a bounce house for your son's party but didn't want to pay for one. Karen, that's a serious accusation. Do you have any proof? She had me there. I didn't have security cameras, and I hadn't been watching when it happened, but I knew what I knew. Me, I'm calling the rental company. Karen, go ahead. I'm sure they'll sort this out. I went back to my house and immediately called the rental company. The customer service person was helpful, but said they couldn't just take my word for it without checking their delivery records. Meanwhile, my daughter's friends started arriving. I had to explain to 8-year-olds why there was no bounce house at the bounce house party. Some parents offered to stay and help, but others just picked their kids up and left. Daughter, where's the bounce house, Mom? Me, there's been a problem, sweetie. We're working on fixing it. But inside, I was panicking. The party was falling apart, and there was nothing I could do about it. About an hour into what should have been the party, a truck from the rental company pulled up. The same 2 guys who delivered it that morning got out and walked straight to my neighbor's backyard. I followed them over and stood at the fence to watch. Rental guy, excuse me, we need to check something. Karen, what's wrong? Rental guy, this bounce house was supposed to be delivered to the address next door. We have a contract issue here. Karen, I don't understand. This is my bounce house. Rental guy, do you have a rental agreement? Karen, well, no, but... Rental guy, the GPS shows we delivered this to next door this morning. Someone moved it without authorization. Karen, that's impossible. The rental guy pulled out his phone and showed her something on the screen. Rental guy, our driver took photos of the delivery location. This bounce house was definitely set up next door. I could see Karen's face changing as she realized she was caught. Rental guy, we need to move this back immediately and reset it at the correct address. Karen, but my son's party is happening right now. Rental guy, ma'am, you don't have a rental agreement with us. This equipment needs to go back where it belongs. That's when Karen completely lost it. Karen, this is ridiculous. The kids are having fun. You can't just take it away. Rental guy, actually, we can. This is theft of rental property. The other parents at her party were starting to figure out what was happening. I could hear them talking among themselves, and they didn't sound happy. Parent at Karen's party, wait, you stole someone else's bounce house? Karen, I didn't steal anything. It was in my yard. Parent at Karen's party, come on, kids. We're leaving. Within 10 minutes, Karen's party had completely emptied out. The rental guys deflated the bounce house right there in front of her son, who started crying because he didn't understand what was happening. Karen, you're ruining my son's birthday. Rental guy, you ruined it yourself when you moved rental equipment without permission. They loaded everything back onto their truck and drove it the 30 feet to my driveway. My daughter's party was pretty much over by then, but we managed to get the bounce house set up for the last hour. The few kids who had stayed got to jump around for a while, and my daughter seemed happy enough. But I was furious about the whole situation. 2 days later, I got a call from the rental company saying they were pressing charges against my neighbor for theft of rental property. Apparently, moving someone else's rental equipment is a bigger deal than I thought. Karen avoided eye contact with me for weeks after that. Her son stopped playing outside as much, probably because she was embarrassed about what had happened. The best part was hearing from other neighbors that this wasn't her first stunt. Apparently, she'd borrowed another family's pool float a few weeks earlier and had tried to claim their food delivery as her own on multiple occasions. My daughter still talks about her birthday party, but not about the bounce house drama. She mostly remembers the cake and the friends who stayed to celebrate with her. Sometimes that's all that really matters. Story 3. I've been organizing community events for about 5 years now, ever since my youngest started kindergarten. It started small with bake sales and reading groups, but I really found my calling when I began coordinating charity drives. There's something deeply satisfying about bringing people together for a good cause. That's exactly what I was trying to do when I ran into the most entitled person I've ever encountered. 3 months ago, I decided to organize a weekend charity drive to collect school supplies for underprivileged kids in our district. The local elementary school had reached out to parent volunteers because so many families were struggling after the recent layoffs at the main factory in town. I knew the perfect spot for our collection event, the beautiful gazebo in Riverside Park that sits right next to the main walking trail. I'd used the gazebo for events before, and it was always first come, first served. The city website clearly stated that the park facilities were available to the public without reservations for gatherings under 50 people. Perfect for what I had in mind. But when I went to scout the location 2 weeks before our planned event, I found something strange. Taped to each of the gazebo's support posts were official-looking laminated signs that read, "Reserved by city permit, authorized use only, violators subject to fines." I figured maybe the city had changed their policy, so I called the Parks Department to ask about reserving the gazebo for our charity drive. Parks Department worker, "Ma'am, we don't have any reservation system for the gazebo. It's public use only." Me, "But there are signs saying it's reserved by city permit." Parks Department worker, "That's impossible. We don't issue permits for that gazebo. Someone's put up fake signs." Me, "Should I remove them?" Parks Department worker, "Don't touch them. We'll send someone out to investigate." The next day, I drove by the park during my lunch break. The signs were still there, and sitting in the gazebo was a woman in her 40s with bleached blonde hair, reading a magazine and sipping what looked like an expensive coffee drink. Her designer handbag sat on the gazebo table like she owned the place. I watched as a family with young kids approached the gazebo. The moment they got close, the woman looked up from her magazine. "Karen, excuse me, this area is reserved. You need to find somewhere else." "Father, reserved? It's a public park." "Karen, read the signs. City permit. I have authorization to use this space." "Mother, For how long? Karen, as long as I need it. There are plenty of other places in the park for you people. The family looked confused but walked away. I was furious. This woman was running off families from a public space with fake signs. Over the next week, I made several trips to the park at different times. Every single day, there she was, treating the gazebo like her personal outdoor office. I watched her chase away joggers who wanted to rest, elderly couples trying to feed ducks, and even a teenage couple just trying to have a quiet conversation. I called the parks department again. The fake signs are still up, and there's a woman camping out there every day claiming she has a permit. Parks department worker, we've been trying to catch her in the act, but she seems to disappear whenever our rangers show up. I'm organizing a charity event for this Saturday. Can you have someone there to help? Parks department worker, absolutely. We'll have rangers on site. Saturday morning arrived, and I got to the park early with my volunteers. The signs were still taped up, but Karen was nowhere to be seen. 2 park rangers helped us remove the fake signs and set up our tables and donation boxes. By 10 o'clock, we had a great turnout. Families were dropping off backpacks, notebooks, and pencils. Kids were playing on the grass nearby while their parents sorted supplies. Everything was going perfectly. Then she showed up. Karen marched across the park like she was leading a military charge, wearing another expensive outfit and those ridiculous high heels that clearly weren't meant for grass. Karen, what is this? You people are in my reserved space. This is a public gazebo. We're holding a charity drive for school supplies. Karen, I don't care what you think you're doing. I have a city permit for this gazebo every weekend. Ranger, ma'am, I'm with the Park Service. There is no permit system for this gazebo. Karen, that's impossible. I filed all the proper paperwork months ago. Ranger, with whom? Karen, the permits office. Ranger, ma'am, we don't have a permits office for park gazebos. This is public space available to everyone. Karen, this is ridiculous. I've been using this gazebo every day for weeks. I have prior claim. You've been illegally monopolizing public property with fake signs. Karen, those signs are completely legitimate. Ranger, ma'am, impersonating city officials and posting fraudulent signage is actually a misdemeanor offense. Karen's face went white, then red, then back to white again. Karen, I want to speak to your supervisor. Ranger, you can speak to the police if you'd prefer. They handle fraudulent signage cases. Karen, this is harassment. I know the mayor personally. Second Ranger, ma'am, we're going to need you to leave the park grounds immediately. Karen, you can't kick me out of a public park. Second Ranger, we can when you're disrupting a legitimate community event and have a history of posting fake official signage. The Rangers escorted Karen across the park while she protested loudly about her rights and threatened to call lawyers. Several families who had been chased away by her over the previous weeks recognized her and started pointing and whispering. Our charity drive was a huge success. We collected enough supplies for over 200 kids, and the story of Karen's fake gazebo permit spread through the community like wildfire. The best part came 3 weeks later when I saw her at the grocery store. She pretended not to recognize me, but I heard her asking the store manager if she could reserve the bench outside for her personal use. Some people never learn. Story 4. I've been hosting yard sales for about 15 years now, ever since my kids moved out and I started decluttering the house. It's become something of a neighborhood tradition. I hold one every spring and fall, and the regulars know to come early for the best deals. I price everything fairly and always put up clear signs about my policies, including the big, all sales final no refunds sign that I've used since day one. Last weekend was my fall sale, and I'd spent weeks going through closets, the garage, and storage areas. My late husband had been quite the gadget collector, so I had tables full of small appliances that still worked perfectly, but were just taking up space. Among them was a chrome toaster from the 70s that had been sitting in our basement for years. It was in great condition, clean, all the parts worked, and it still had that retro charm that people seem to love these days. Saturday morning started like any other sale. The early birds showed up around 7, and by 9 I had a steady stream of neighbors and strangers browsing through everything. The toaster caught the attention of several people throughout the morning, but it wasn't until around noon that this woman showed up. She was probably in her 40s, driving a luxury car that seemed out of place for someone shopping at yard sales. She had this air about her like she was doing me a favor by even looking at my stuff. She picked up the toaster, examined it briefly, and asked how much. Me, it's $15. Works perfectly, I tested it myself yesterday. Karen, I'll give you 10. Me, the price is 15. Everything's already priced fairly. She made this huffing sound like I'd personally offended her, but she dug through her purse and handed me the money. No receipt requested, no questions about returns, just grabbed the toaster and left. I thought that was the end of it. Boy, was I wrong. Monday afternoon, I was in my garden when I heard car doors slamming in my driveway. I looked up to see the same woman marching toward my front door, carrying the toaster. My stomach immediately sank because I could tell from her expression that this wasn't going to be pleasant. I met her at the door before she could ring the bell. Karen, I need to return this piece of junk you sold me. Me, I'm sorry, but all sales at the yard sale were final. I don't do returns. Karen, well, you're going to make an exception because this toaster burned my toast. It's defective. Me, did you adjust the settings? It's an older model, so the dial might be more sensitive than modern toasters. Karen, I know how to use a toaster. This thing is broken, and you sold me damaged goods. I want my $15 back right now. I tried to stay calm and reasonable. Me, I'm sorry you're having trouble with it, but I tested it before the sale and it worked fine. All sales were final, and there was a sign posted clearly stating that policy. Karen, I don't care about your stupid sign. You can't sell people broken appliances and then hide behind some sign. By now, she was raising her voice loud enough that Mrs. Henderson from next door had come out to water her plants, obviously listening. Mr. Garcia across the street was pretending to check his mailbox, but clearly watching the whole thing. Me, the toaster wasn't broken when I sold it. Even if it were, the sale policy was clearly posted and final. Karen, this is ridiculous. I'm reporting you to the Better Business Bureau. You can't run a business like this. Me, ma'am, this isn't a business. It's a yard sale, and I'm not changing my policy. That's when she really lost it. Karen, you people think you can just rip off honest customers. I'm going to leave reviews everywhere telling people what a scammer you are. More neighbors had started to gather. The Johnsons from down the block were walking their dog and stopped to watch. Even old Mr. Peterson, who usually minded his own business, was standing on his porch. I walked over to my garage where I still had some of the yard sale signs up. Me, see this sign? All sales final, no refunds. It was posted in 3 different places during the sale. Karen, I never saw any sign. Mrs. Henderson couldn't help herself. Mrs. Henderson, honey, that sign was bigger than a stop sign. We all saw it. Karen's face turned bright red as she realized the growing audience was not on her side. A few people were even chuckling. Karen, fine, keep your broken junk, but don't think this is over. She stormed back to her car, slammed the toaster into her passenger seat, and peeled out of my driveway fast enough to leave tire marks. Mr. Garcia walked over afterward, shaking his head. Mr. Garcia, some people have no shame. That toaster probably works fine, she just wanted something to complain about. The whole neighborhood was talking about it for days. Apparently, Karen had tried the same thing at 2 other yard sales that weekend. Word travels fast in small communities, and let's just say she won't be getting any warm welcomes at future sales around here. Story 5. I've lived in the same neighborhood for 12 years, and until last month, I thought I knew all my neighbors pretty well. My wife and I bought our house here because it felt like a safe, quiet place to raise a family. When our son was born 3 months ago with severe respiratory issues requiring constant oxygen support, having reliable neighbors became even more important to us. Our baby needs his oxygen concentrator running 24 hours a day. The doctors made it clear that any interruption to his oxygen supply could be life-threatening. That's why we invested in a high-quality backup generator last year. It wasn't cheap, but our son's life depends on it. The storm hit on a Tuesday night. Hurricane-force winds knocked down power lines across half the county. By Wednesday morning, the power company was saying it could be 4 to 7 days before electricity was restored to our area. I fired up our generator immediately and called our pediatrician to let him know about the situation. Around noon, I was outside checking the generator's fuel level when my neighbor from 3 houses down approached me. I'd seen her around but never really talked to her much. She had 2 kids, maybe 8 and 10 years old, who were always running around the neighborhood. Karen, hey, I see you've got a generator running over there. Me, yeah, we need it for medical equipment. My son has to have his oxygen machine running constantly. Karen, oh, that's nice. Listen, I was wondering if I could borrow it for a few hours tonight. My kids are going absolutely crazy without their tablets and Netflix. They're driving me insane. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She wanted to borrow a medical device so her kids could watch TV. Me, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. My son's life depends on this generator. His oxygen concentrator has to stay powered on. Karen, come on, just for a couple hours. You could turn it off after he goes to sleep or something. Me, that's not how it works. He needs oxygen support around the clock. I really can't let anyone borrow this. Karen, that's pretty selfish. My kids haven't had entertainment for almost a whole day. You could share it. I was getting frustrated but tried to stay polite. Me, I understand it's inconvenient, but this is literally keeping my baby alive. Maybe you could take the kids somewhere with power, like the mall or a friend's house. Karen, whatever. I'll figure something out. She walked away with this look on her face that made me uncomfortable. Something about her tone made me think this wasn't over. That evening around 10 o'clock, I was in the nursery with my wife, checking on our son, when we heard our security system's motion sensor alarm going off. We'd installed it last year after some break-ins in the area, and it covers our backyard where the generator sits. My wife stayed with the baby while I grabbed a flashlight and went to investigate. I could hear the generator still running, but as I got closer to the back door, I saw a figure crouched next to it with some kind of tools. Me, hey, what are you doing back there? The person jumped up and started running toward the fence, but they tripped over our garden hose and went down hard. In the beam of my flashlight, I could see it was my neighbor. She was holding a wrench and had apparently been trying to disconnect the power cables. Karen, I wasn't doing anything. I was just checking to see if you were okay. Me, at 10 at night? With a wrench? You were trying to steal my generator. Karen, I was just borrowing it. My kids really need this more than you do. I couldn't believe she was still trying to justify this. I told her to stay put while I called the police. She kept arguing that she wasn't stealing, just borrowing, and that I was being unreasonable for not sharing. The police arrived about 15 minutes later. By then, Karen had given up trying to run and was sitting on my back steps complaining about how unfair the whole situation was. Officer, can you tell me what happened here? I explained about the generator being medical equipment for my baby, her request earlier that day, and catching her trying to take it. The officer examined the scene and could see the disconnected cables and her wrench on the ground. Karen, officer, I wasn't stealing anything. I was just going to borrow it for a few hours. His baby doesn't need it all night long. Officer, ma'am, taking someone's property without permission is theft, regardless of your intentions. And this is medical equipment for an infant. Me, yes, officer. Our son has severe respiratory issues. This generator powers his oxygen concentrator. Without it, he could die. The officer's expression changed when he understood what was at stake. Officer: "Ma'am, you're under arrest for attempted theft. You have the right to remain silent." Karen: "This is ridiculous. I was just trying to help my kids. You people are all crazy." As they put her in handcuffs, she kept yelling about how unfair it was and how her kids deserved entertainment. She seemed genuinely unable to understand that her children wanting to watch Netflix didn't override a baby's need for life-saving medical equipment. The next day, her husband came over to apologize. He seemed mortified by what his wife had done and said he'd had no idea about her plan. He offered to pay for any damage to our generator, though thankfully she hadn't actually broken anything before getting caught. A week later, we got a call from the prosecutor's office. They were charging her with attempted theft of medical equipment, which carried enhanced penalties because of the life-threatening nature of what she'd tried to take. Her lawyer apparently tried to negotiate it down to a misdemeanor, but the prosecutor wasn't interested in reducing charges. The case went to court 2 months later. She pleaded guilty to attempted theft and received 6 months probation, community service, and had to pay restitution for our security system activation and police response. The judge made it clear that attempting to steal life-saving medical equipment was especially serious. The whole experience opened my eyes to how some people think. The idea that her kids' entertainment was somehow equivalent to my baby's survival still baffles me. I'm just grateful our security system worked and that the police took it seriously.